Is there a make it more interesting button on that?
Well, I've got all these, which you can do all sorts of good stuff on. This is like the go-to. Like, it's unbelievable, this machine, but you need to.
It looks good.
You need to know what you're doing with it. I buy this sort of stuff, and I just think, oh, now I've got the Rodecaster, it will make me a superstar.
Yeah.
You have to be knowledgeable to use it properly to be able to then go, oh, okay, so I'm just doing that setting there. Just like there's people on the fly do these episodes where they're just like on the fly, just going, oh, that sounds better. Yeah, it's like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. What's that?
It's like those DJs you see, don't you? Where they're just like, I'm just going to twist that.
Yeah. On the fly, and it's just like, yeah.
Mate, you just press play on the laptop.
To me, it sounds exactly the same, but
yeah.
I'm sure you're doing all right there. Right. Actually, no, I don't even want to put it. Let's just put it down there. See the stress, Danny.
Don't think about it.
See the stress radiating.
It's me and you.
From
There's no mics.
No rude words.
There's no viewers. Well, we need that anyway.
Not yet. No nipple today.
It'll be me.
No nipple. Top on. Professional.
Was there a nipple?
Oh, there's nipples. Oh, there's all sorts, Danny. Yeah. We haven't quite got to the
OnlyFans.
We haven't got to the genitals, but there's been nipples.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here we are. This is episode. I don't actually know. I think it might be 8.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. I've only released at this point. I don't know, 4.
I was going to say, is this 5? Because I've listened to them.
Yeah. I don't know.
Got a backlog. Well played.
8 or 9. 8 or 9. Well, again, I need. Someone needs to be editing them, and it's me. I'm the editor, and I haven't edited them, so it's like, oh, when's episode 4 coming out, Fiona? Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, got free to do.
Better go and edit it. Yeah, well, this is what I can't stand. Like, what do I do? Do I just go introduce yourself? I'm just going to sit back. Do I have to have some massive spew where I'm like, this is Danny, and Danny's the runner, and I don't know. You tell me.
Nah.
You tell me, guest. What do you want from me?
I'm happy for a casual one because it's nothing special. I think what would be cool to get out today is to present how accessible it is. So if I came in, told you about my sub 3-hour marathon and stuff like that, people are switching off straight away, aren't they? So hopefully just a casual, easy chat about running.
Yes. Right. So this is Danny, by the way. Hi, camera. I know you're not meant to look at the camera on these podcasts, but
it just happens to be there.
Yeah. So this is hopefully the start. You see how I sort of tilt myself.
Yeah.
I'm just desperate to look at the camera.
It's fine. That's all good.
It's not. It's terrible.
I want to say
this is like I'm hoping this is the start of a new era, even though we've only done 7 or 8 episodes. I've got the first few out the way. Hopefully. So I've got the me just and now it's like, right, okay, get a guest on, be a bit more professional, not call each other the C word, and let's try and move on. So that's what we're trying to do.
and just delete a note.
No C word. But that's what I'm trying to do. So I think hopefully, like God forbid, I can just not have Fiona on as much anymore.
That's not very
Which would be quite nice. But no, this is more of a professional approach. I think I said to you before we started, realistically, very few podcasts can get away with just pressing record and are interesting enough just to go off on these massive tangents about random stuff. At the end of the day, unfortunately, even though I care about me looking at the camera and me being a little bit nervous and stressed, I think the vast majority of people, even though there's no one watching, as you said, at the moment, they don't really care about me and Fiona in my life and my woes. It's hard for me to accept. It is tough, but they just don't care. Not yet, because I'm not famous enough yet. They will eventually.
Yeah.
So getting you on to talk about running and to talk about veganism, 2 quite interesting subjects, 2 subjects I don't really know a lot about. I think this will be a nice. I keep saying on the episodes, dipping your toes. So this is me dipping the toes into being a bit more professional, and hopefully me shutting up, because we've been dragging on a little bit. Sorry, I've been dragging on a little bit with this massive intro. So Danny, please get us cracking. We're going to start talking about running, because I know you've done you've done the run for a lot of people. So yeah, whatever. Introduce yourself if you need to, or let's just get cracking into the running. Danny, influence me. Tell me, how do you run? I hate running. So help me.
I've just run the London Marathon last weekend, and like you say, it's the run. And if we sat down here, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe less than that, and you said, "Oh, you're going to run the London Marathon," I'd be like, "No way, no chance." But yeah, no. For me, it was a lockdown thing. I think some people started making bread. Some people were doing quizzes online. I just got a bit stir crazy. I was like, I need to get out of the house, and I just started running, and I didn't know what I was doing. I think I was like my first run. I wasn't even wearing like the right clothes or anything. I had like cotton shorts that you wear at the gym kind of thing. Yeah, from there I just started finding a place where I can get away from all that difficulty of the lockdown, but also start focusing on something that's going to help me physically. And then what I found out from that is the positive effect it has on your mental health as well. But yeah, there's probably a long journey from there going to the London Marathon. But yeah, that's how it started for me anyway.
Yeah, I think with when it comes to running, like we'll get into the details and training and stuff, but yeah, running is one of those things where for a lot of people it's quite accessible. It can be quite accessible if you're trying to start you start on your health journey of losing weight or whatever. We just want to be a bit more active. I'd never not say to anyone not to do running. I'd say, oh no, don't do running. Oh no, because you hurt your joints and your knees and all this stuff. It's like if that's where you want to start. And if that's going to get you moving a bit more, do some running.
Yeah,
I just feel like running is one of those things where, like most exercises, and I'm all about trying to find an exercise you can stomach and all this. It's one of those things where it's good, it's accessible, so a lot of people can get into it pretty quick. Get a pair of trainers, you're good to go. But a lot of people will stick to it, or they will look at running as like the go-to. So they will go, oh, I want to start training again, but I don't like running. Like, oh, okay, there is more stuff you can do. Oh yeah, but like just do running, don't you? And I hate running, so
there's a reason why.
Am I gonna move more? What do I do?
Yeah, there's a reason why. Like when you see those inspirational like Instagram reels, it's always like, I'm bettering, and they're always just running for some reason. That seems, that seems to be like the go-to of like, I'm improving myself. Look at me with my shirt off in the woods or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It is something that is used as like here's a accessible thing you can do, but that doesn't mean that there's not a challenging thing from starting to being like a staple in your routine. There's a big jump between that. I think a lot of people try and do a 5K, find out they can't run 2 miles, and then go, that's not for me then, is it? And there's no like, maybe I should work my way slowly up to it. Maybe I should try and do it in a way that will work for me. Like you were saying with some people with their joints and stuff, they might be a little bit overweight. So running is going to be inherently harder for them. Like it's like, if I put a 30 kilogram backpack off and went up I'm not running a marathon in that, but that's what people are trying to do.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, because the heavier you are, naturally, you're going to be putting more weight through your knees and your joints and everything. So I've had some clients who have done like a couch to 5K, which I think is quite overall like a good excuse to get moving and to start off. I guess I don't know how long on average you have to train for those. I assume it differs depending on whenever the race is, but I think that's it's good incentive to get moving. But in terms of like me prescribing running, I guess is the go-to for many clients. It's for me, it's always just been about, well, do you enjoy running? If you don't run. Yeah. Just walk maybe. Start walking first. And that probably goes into what I've suggested to clients who wanted to start running or were running at the time, starting to do interval-based stuff or fartlek-based stuff where it was like running for X amount of time, then stopping, then walking. And so, yeah. So you started in like round lockdown and stuff. So then other than the fact that it got you out and it cleared the mind and it was, good for you, you felt good doing it, did you quickly think, oh, actually, you know what, this is going to be my sort of go-to source of exercise? Or was it like, well, no, this has served a purpose, so great. And now lockdown, we've sort of come to an end of that. Yeah. I'll go back to what I was doing before. Yeah. Was like, were you going, oh, do you know what? Yeah, no, this is me now. I now associate myself as a runner. Like you start getting on like the fancier trainers and you get the sports watch and what's that bloody thing called? Strava.
Yeah, that's a good.
Was that in and around the time of lockdown? Did that come out about that time?
It's been around a while, and I think it's developed like got more and more popular around when everyone was jumping out running and comparing giving each other kudos or whatever. Yeah. Now it's just no one's as on it as much as because now.
Oh, has it died a death now a little bit?
Well, I think the runners are on it. Right. But yeah, it's not as popular as it was back then, from what I've seen. But yeah, no, it did take a while. Like I was saying, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I didn't enjoy it. It was almost like it's the only thing I could do. was either that or go for a walk.
Mm.
I had a couple of weights in my garage or whatever. There's only so many things you can do with that before you get a bit mad. And with the running, it's sort of, it's probably a lucky combination of it being lockdown, because I don't know if I would have got into running in the same way. Because it made me go out, socialize as well. Like I was meeting people and running, and I was going out into nature because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do that. I was just in my living room. And then the more I did it, the easier it was, and the more fun it became. And then I downloaded Strava, and then you start looking at, oh, maybe I'll get some PBs, or I can start receiving comments from people and giving comments to them. And then there's like a social element there, and an encouragement element there. And then I think there was a point in the lockdown where I was like, you know, also my age as well, I was like nearly 30, and I was like, I'd love to be able to do a marathon before I was 30. So I just signed up for the Brighton Marathon there and then. And I was like, I have to train for this now. And in the process of training, just fell more and more in love with it, and did more races and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, so I guess going into your training a little bit, other than the distance, how do you break down blocks? Like what's the blocks of training? How do you taper stuff during the week? How do you start increasing the distance and the time? And like, what do you measure in miles and kilometers? Like, you know, all this stuff that I'm just like, like the head goes. So what for you? And I imagine it's different for a lot of people based on how they calculate the times, how they taper up and down, rest periods, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, if you can like give us a rough guide of what your training looked like for the London Marathon to prepare for it. No, it might be quite useful for a lot of people.
Yeah. Stop me if I'm being boring here, because I can hear myself sometimes when I'm chatting away about intervals and tight.
I'm sure they're like, I'm not speaking. So I'm sure they're like, whatever shuts him up, just go for it.
Right. No, a lot of what I did for London Marathon was from learning from what I did at the Brighton Marathon. So once I'd done that, I realised I was like, there's a lot I didn't do as well as I could have. So when I was training for the Brighton Marathon, I didn't do any interval training. I didn't do any sort of easy runs or anything like that. I was always running the pace I wanted to run the marathon at, and just constantly doing that, and then doing that along there was not much structure to it. Even the fueling and stuff like that, I was just like, I'll have lunch and then I'll be all right. But you've got to think about it. If you want to be the optimum training to make the race as good as it can be, there's so many things you have to think about. So for the London Marathon, I was like, right, if this is the marathon, I might as well give it a good shot. Did a lot of reading. There's loads of podcasts out there. There's YouTube channels, and there's a really good one called the Running Channel that I got hooked on. And they have like podcasts, and each one there's usually a different theme, and they'll start answering questions and give really good advice about how to do it. So anyway, that was a long intro to say what I did.
No. It's all good stuff. No?
But yeah, so they're sort of referred to as a block. So for me, it's about 17 weeks. It's usually about 4 months out from the marathon. You start your block. What's really important is to ease in, and then get to a point of like your longest run, your hardest intervals, everything like that, about 3 weeks out. So you're slowly building up. About 14 weeks worth of training all the way up to and you can almost start it with, like, as long as you've got a decent aerobic base, you run around a bit and you play a bit. You could start that training block and get to a really good place where your body's like ready for this marathon. What I found was really important is at least one rest day and at least one cross training session. So the cross training would be cycling or swimming for me. Other people might find other things. I don't know. They'll get them like
the elliptical.
Yeah, something like that. You know, so low impact.
Yeah.
High visual, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the idea is to get as balanced as possible. So you want to capture everything, whether that be how good your lungs are grabbing all those oxygens coming in. You know, that's the technical term. How well your body.
Let's get a study up for that, don't you?
Yeah. Bloody hell. No one wants to hear the jargon. No. But yeah, there's a lot to be said about basically running really slow. I guess really slow, like a couple of minutes slower than what your marathon pace is at a fairly long period of time. And it's basically your heart rate's low, and your body's just being really efficient at using that oxygen to run. Because the lower your heart rate, the less effort basically, and the less energy you're using to beat your heart. So it's just really efficient. And the more you do that, the more you have that aerobic base, basically. And the rule of thumb is 80% easy, 20% hard. So I'll give you just a week.
Yeah.
So Monday's usually my rest day, because you'll see why in a minute. Tuesday, because of the rest day, I'll get my hard session out of the way, and I'll mix it up just so my body's sort of not getting used to it. But I'll either do intervals. So that would be like a 10-minute little easy jog, get into it. Sprints, like 5K, maybe slightly quicker pace, even for a marathon distance. So that for me would be about 6.5 minute miles, maybe slightly quicker than that. Whereas my marathon pace was about 8.5. So it's like really quick. And then you walk in for a bit, and you do that in intervals. Some people use a track because it's like easy to know how far you've gone and stuff like that. You can do that in miles, or you can do it in minutes. So just whatever works for you, or kilometers, or just yards. I don't know, whatever someone wants to do. So that would be my hard session, and I'll do probably about an hour of that. And after that, you're done. You're like on your knees, sort of thing. And that would mean the Tuesday was either an easy or a recovery run. And that was what I was going back to, like, where your body's not working too hard, but you're still moving. You're still like working on your breathe, how your lungs are grabbing the oxygens. I'm going to stop saying that, I think. But yeah, and that's, so you still, it's like the idea of recovery run is like, what? How can you recover while running? You're running. Like, that's an exercise. It's like, but you still need, the easy run means that you're able to exercise and recover at the same time. It's almost like a cheat.
Yeah.
And then on the Wednesday, that's usually like a steady run. So it's basically in and around marathon pace, but like 45 minutes to an hour, just quite a nice, 10K usually, something like that.
Just a cheeky 10K.
Yeah. But that's far down the line. This, at the beginning, you're sort of building up. At the beginning, it's like a couple of miles, and then it goes all the way up.
Yeah.
Friday would be my cross train day, so I'll probably do like a swim, early morning swim, something like that. And on the Saturday, that's sort of what I call like the fun day. And like you mentioned, the fartlek run. So where did you hear about the fartlek running sort of thing?
Oh yeah, I just like fartlek, you learn about interval and fartlek training when you do your level 3 PT course.
Oh, okay.
Just in terms of the difference between interval stuff, whereas interval's more you do a set amount of time, you stop completely. Fartlek's more continuous, isn't it? You're at a certain pace, and then you still continue, but just lower the pace a lot, and then so you're always sort of doing something rather than stopping. Catch up, like hit. Yeah, like hits like 30 seconds all out, and then everyone's half dead. 10 seconds rest. Like fucking hell, is that it? Off you go again. Yeah. I fartlek, I think for the vast majority. Well, okay, it depends what you're training for, doesn't it, and your experience and stuff, but. The idea of maybe, well, no, please tell me. What are the benefits of interval and then fartlek, and how do they both work in unison with training to run? Yeah, I think interval is a bit more rigid, and it almost forces you to push yourself, like really. So I think you've mentioned it before, where when you're training, there's a line where it's like, this is the best I can do, and if you go too far over that line, a bit like an engine, you're going to blow it out. You're going to injure yourself. You're going to go too far. But if you just tap away at that line then just moves slightly forward next time. And that's basically improvement, isn't it? And that's what interval training is trying to do. It's trying to like tap away at that line. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. Are you working towards like thresholds? Yeah. Like aerobic, anaerobic? Anaerobic. So you're getting that, that's pretty... Yeah. I don't know, is that into the weeds? Or is that just standard stuff? For me, it's like, anaerobic, aerobic. Yeah. Right, okay. I guess for the average runner who's just trying to get into it, I guess they're not looking at thresholds, are they? Like, this is to train for marathons. Yeah, this is the next. Start thinking about this is the next step, because this helps with the pacing on the rest of it. Yeah, and you can frame it like, if you're a beginner, you can frame it totally different. Just go like run as hard as you can for a minute. Don't even think about thresholds or anything like that. Yeah. And then when you built that base, you can then go, right, let's structure this now. Like, you actually want to do this marathon time, we can structure it. Whereas before, you just want to make it more enjoyable and more accessible, like we were saying before. And I think fartlek is a good way of doing that, because it's super relative to the person. So fartlek is obviously like for me, it was like, I'll go out for a run, and if I feel like it, I'll just run quicker. If I feel like it, I'll slow down. I think it translates to like fun fast or something like that. Or oh god, yeah. It's a Swedish thing, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, the idea is that you're just running from feel. So that day you might be a little bit fatigued, so you're not running as fast, but it feels fast. And that's what's important, because then you're not...
because with the interval one, if you set yourself a speed, like I was saying, 6.5 minutes, look, I can do that because I've had a rest day. Whereas on a Saturday, you can see what's happened all the way up to the build up to that day. You can't really overdo it. And then the Sunday for me was always the long run. I actually look forward to the long run because it was like I was saying, it's within that 80% easy pace, well, again, relative to you. And the way I usually gauge that is weirdly, I did it on my own most of the time, but it's if you can talk. So if you're running and you can have a conversation, that's a good gauge of like, yeah, this is that right sort of pace. So I'm not doing it too much. And that would build up from, I think that's my first long run was 7 miles, and then it went all the way up to 22. So it gets quite far, but obviously you're building up to 26.
So 22 is the top end. That's where you probably you're getting to like, you know, you're never doing the actual 26 points. So like you're only getting to, I don't know, like 80, 75%, 80%.
Yeah,
and that's your top end.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of rule of thumb is like the more you do that, there's diminishing returns in terms of like how tired you're going to be and how much you're not going to be able to recover for that Tuesday session, and how much you're going to potentially aggravate some injuries or anything like that. So it's one of the only races where you would never run the distance until the day, because it's just not good for your body.
Right.
That's why marathons are so, I think, lauded as well, because you're not supposed to run that far.
Yeah.
I don't think scientifically. I know some people have like really honed themselves, like ultras and stuff like that, but it's not a very natural distance to run for most people.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing entirely, isn't it? The ultra and, you know, like the 4-day events and all, like the Goggins stuff that he was doing.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's good for social media though, isn't it? It does.
Yeah. Again, like if you enjoy it, I suppose. Like if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how you train for stuff like that, because training for a marathon's one thing, but if you're training to do 4 or 5 marathons in the space of like a weekend,
mad, isn't it? Yeah, that's your recovery.
I don't even know what I guess maybe they just, I don't know, they work at a similar thing where they run up to a certain point, they get to like 60, 70, 80 miles, and they're like, well, it's going to be 120, but I actually need to run the 120, so just see what happens, I guess. Get to 80 and then like whatever. No, but that is interesting, because I guess naively, I probably, like, I look at running, and I'm sure a lot of people might look at running and just think, oh, it's just running's running. So training for a 5K or training for a marathon, you don't, I don't know, like maybe people do, but you just think, oh, you just put your trainers on, just go out for a run. Yeah. Maybe put the timer on, set, like, and see how long it takes you to get to 5K or whatever. And you don't like, I imagine a lot of people won't be thinking about interval training and fartlek training and slowing and sprinting and stopping and doing all this stuff and setting a pace and all the rest of it. So running itself, the art of running is like, you just go running. But to actually do it properly, it's quite interesting. It's really interesting actually, because it's you just look at running as running, like you would look at any exercise. You look at lifting weights. Most people aren't thinking about tempo.
No.
And supersets and all this fancy dancy stuff. They're just like, oh, there's a dumbbell, just pick it up. That feels all right. Yeah, great. Yeah. Did I get bigger biceps? Getting there, but a little bit more. Yeah. Progressive overload goes across the board, obviously. Like anything you do, you try and find ways to slowly increase it and get better at it, like various ways, tempo, form, time, blah, blah, blah. I think I'd like to probably touch upon it links in with the training, and I guess it links in with the veganism stuff as well. What was your... Like, did you have any protocols when it came to nutrition in particular? Was there being a vegan, was there any struggles? Did you find that you had to work around, like fueling yourself before and after? And then going on to how you fueled yourself in preparation for the marathon and like what changed, like carb loading and all this stuff. Yeah. I'd be quite interested to hear about what you had to do for that, and if it's just preference or there is like a lot of science behind it.
I think I'll go into the approach that I like. One of the approaches you have, which I quite like, is like, don't veer too much away from like what you enjoy to a point where you resent the thing you're doing. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think with most diets, you can eat most what you enjoy whilst doing training, can't you?
Yeah.
And the beauty of running, I found, is you can't eat too much. I think like if you got a full training week and you're doing 50 miles of running, and I was doing strength training and swimming and stuff, I needed the calories. So it was almost like I was like buying in more food. So in terms of like volume, it's quite fun because you have like bigger. oh, I can have that naan bread that I normally don't have or whatever, or I can have a bigger bowl of whatever, or have a porridge or whatever for the morning. But yeah, like touching upon the veganism thing. So it's interesting because I've been vegan for like nearly 10 years now. And back then, I didn't have to learn how to be vegan and also be a runner. I was just learning how to be vegan. And that's now a natural thing. So when it came to like running, I didn't really think about it. I was just eating what I'd normally eat, I suppose. But in the last few years, I have been conscious of like what the foods I have and what the nutrition they give me. Like you're saying about carbs are, your energy. So I'm like, okay, what are some good base carbs? Rice, pasta, potatoes. How can I make decent meals that cover the macros I need for the run? And I'd normally do that anyway, but when I'm doing a training block, I just up the ante a little bit. Especially if you're eating that sort of volume, you are getting the nutrients you need. We should be anyway, as long as it's like a balanced meal. Getting a good breakfast in was like a massive thing. So for me, I'm quite, I don't say boring, but like I'll have a really similar breakfast. I'll have like a bowl of porridge, peanut butter in there, sometimes a little bit of jam, and I'll mix up. Sometimes I'll do chocolate porridge if I'm feeling a bit naughty. But for the long run, I'll do that. And I found, have you ever done like overnight Weetabix or anything like that?
Oh yeah. There's all sorts of
that.
Yeah,
fun
like
stuff.
scoop of protein, almond milk.
Yeah, it feels like you're a kid again.
Yeah.
I was like making quite a lot of that, chucking bananas on it, I think it's one of those things that becomes sort of routine. So you're just like, oh yeah, today, getting my cheese. I called it my morning cheesecake actually, a Weetabix, Greek yogurt, and then some berries on top.
Yeah.
It was a bit like that for me. And I think I was saying to you, I don't know if I remember if the mic was on or not, but when I make dinner for me and my wife, I'll make it for like 5 people. And I'll sort of look at sort of eyeball it. Well, what am I doing that day? What am I doing tomorrow? To the portion I have. So it's just a bit more because I've got my long run tomorrow. And then throughout the week, I've got loads of pre-made lunches that I know are packed with the protein, the rice, all the veggies and all that. So like if I'm running that night, I'm like, okay, I've got one of my good lunches. I'll eat one of them. I think it's all about the planning, I think, isn't it? Like understanding beforehand and then implementing it becomes the easy bit.
Yeah, Well, if you can get into the habit of meal prepping in some capacity for everything, but I guess for having that training, and you don't want to fast around here in the day. You don't want to have to worry about, and that goes across the board for everyone. If you can start doing a little bit of meal prep, it hasn't got to be every day. It hasn't got to be for like Monday to Friday. But at the same time, like, well, if you're going to do a bit, you may as well do enough to cover you for the week at least, and then weekend, do whatever you want. Because it just takes away that barrier. It just takes away that, I imagine there's something worse than if you're getting up in the morning and preparing to go for a run or post-run, you're coming back and you're like, oh Christ, let me open the what am I going to eat? Or you go, oh, you have some of this, but it's not prepared and you've got to fucking fart ass around. You've just been on like a fucking 15k run. You're starving, you need something to eat, you've got to go back to work, whatever. And then before training as well, before running, you kind of want to get that right. I know, like you said, everyone's like preference will be slightly different with what they can stomach and what they enjoy and what they don't. But if you fart arsing around before and after training of any form, it just makes the whole thing even more miserable. And then you associate that with when you start doing that type of training as well, when it's long distance and you start doing more and more of it, you got to try and make sure that your nutrition's on point to a degree. And at the very least, you're getting your protein in. So you're getting your protein in so you can start recovering as well as you can. And then also based on preference, you've got your carbs ready to go, you've got your fats ready to go. So again, it's probably one of those things where you think, oh yeah, running and whatever, you just like, just grab a bit of that and that'll do. Even I guess for you with having to decide what type of food you're eating based on the length of your run. Because if you're going for like a shorter run, maybe you've not got to load up as much on like the oats and the Weetabix, like the slow releasing carbs, as opposed to if you're going for like an hour or so, you can maybe get away with like rice cakes and a bit of jam or whatever, something like a banana, like something like that, where you have something that's quicker, simple carbs, and then you can like then fuel after it. So I guess even that you have to be quite you can be loose-ish with it, but once you've got that put in, you can then don't have to really worry about deviating too much. It's quite boring, but that's kind of what it is, though, isn't it? Really, unfortunately, people don't want to hear it, but dieting or having a diet,
it can be simple.
You have to fall in love with boredom a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go a little bit nuts over the weekend, you'll feel a lot better because you've had that bit of boredom Monday to Friday. And like, there's nothing worse. You want to switch off from that sort of stuff. You want it just to become part of the routine. You don't even want to think about it. You want to just pick up, like if you can meal prep, you just pick the Tupperware, warm it up, you're good to go. You're not really thinking about it. And of course, like you want to enjoy your food, but if Monday to Friday is just a slog fest with work and life and family and all the rest of it, and you can enjoy the weekend more, it's sort of probably, it's probably worth the hit for most people, rather than having to worry about trying to prep a fresh bloody meal after a 13-hour day, and you got to feed the kids. And all that. It's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, if anything, trial and error is like key as well. Like there's the amount of times I've fueled badly, and I'll go, oh, next time I'm going to try and do a run on a pot noodle kind of thing. Like that didn't work. I didn't just like know to do that. There were bad runs. There were like times where I felt my energy was lethargic, or I was like, I got back from a run, I was like, oh, I've got to cook it. I've done a long run. I've got to cook a meal here. I've got nothing ready. So then next time, like I was saying, it's so good to make a big pot of something. That's what I do, and then just portion for the rest of the week. And I usually do about 3 meals throughout the week when I've got time in the evening. So I quite like cooking, which is helpful, I think, for me. It's almost like a superpower. If you quite like the cooking, then it doesn't feel like oh bloody, I've got to get the old pans out and do this. I'm actually like, I wonder what spices I'm going to add to this one. But yeah, maybe I'm just a weirdo in that sense, but that's helpful. Like, and it's food I enjoy. I quite like my own food. So yeah, it's not a good tip, is it?
It's just about keeping it simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just trying to find, because people do whinge about, I can't eat healthily, and it's like I get it. I'm there to a point. But I was talking to someone the other day, and they were just talking about, I don't really know what to eat. I don't. How do you eat healthily? How do you get veg in? I get, okay, but just get like a veg that that you don't detest. Get, even if it's a stir fry pack, even if you don't want to chop the veg, even if you want to just get a stir fry pack, if it fits into your diet, get a fajita mix, 30-40p. Again, like should fit in for most. Sprinkle it on the veg, get your lean source of protein, vegan or not, mix it together, and then there you go. Try make a big batch of it, and you that should do it. And it might not be like the greatest meal in the world. It might not be, you want to have it every day, but it might serve a purpose for 2 or 3 days. Takes the stress out of it. You get some protein in, you get your veg in, you get your fiber in. It can be difficult sometimes where clients and other people just aren't getting it. Rotten attitude. Like I have to rein it back in, where I'm like, well, just because it's easy for me now, because I've been doing it for a number of years, doesn't mean that it's easy for this person. And you can do everything for people. You can like set them stuff up. You're like, here's your calories, here's this. I suggest doing this, I suggest doing that. And then you check in with them and you go, how'd you get on? I just didn't have the time. I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Why? Why didn't you? I've done it for you. You just gotta just do the last bit. But then again, it's like, weighing yourself back in. It's like, for a lot of people, that's not the norm. It's like saying to someone, right, okay, once you start running, start training for a marathon. All you got to start doing is get your weekend runs in. All right, make some time for it.
Yeah, you make sure you on Tuesday, do that on the Wednesday, get your cross track. It's easy as that.
Yeah. And it's like, and you sort, because you've been doing
somewhere.
And you've been doing it for a good period of time now, and you found a way to make it work for you in your life. It's like we talked about like Sean, your brother, like he wants to start doing a bit of running, but you could go, right, Sean, 10k here, have a little bit of a breather. We'll go for 12. Make sure you fuel like sufficiently. Make sure you do this, and then if you go, right, okay, so how are you feeling? And he's like dead after 6k. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't want to put him off with like all the like mad tips or anything like that. It's like you're sprinkling, aren't you? Like each time, and then hopefully soaking that information in and coming back, and then with that information gaining more, and then it's like a slow process, I guess.
Yeah. But it's like, this is your routine now. This is like running. You enjoy it. This is part of your life. So if other people want to get involved with that, great. But if Sean is like running and you go, what happened here? Oh, I just had like I had a Twinkie bar before I came out. Did you eat your banana? Did you have that? No, I had a Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
just because I just sort of forgot. It's like, oh, okay, no, like, fair enough. Let's rewind 4 or 5 years when you might have gone, oh, okay, well, anything will do, won't it? You might just your nutrition, if you learn and develop, don't you? So
we went for a run yesterday, and it was 12 degrees or something like that. So for me, I know around that temperature, I don't need anything more than a shorts and t-shirt, because I always say dress for mile 2.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Because you can't. Oh, it's cold out. Get my coat on, and you start running. Like, oh, why am I so hot? Because you're in a coat, mate.
Yeah.
And he come into the room, and he was like wearing all these like base layers and tights and long sleeves,
thermals.
And I was like, mate, you're gonna. And he's out on, and I was like, you're gonna be roasted. And like it's little things like that, where to me, well, yeah, mile 2. What are you doing? To him, he's like, it's cold out. It's just like those little bits of knowledge that are gonna make running more enjoyable. Because like the more you understand, the more you do it, the more fun it is, like with most things, and especially if you start getting good at it. And something as simple as what you're wearing can add to that. Like decent pair of shoes can really add to it as well. Like that's one of the tips I always say to people. If you can afford it, and there's loads of like secondhand ones as well, you can get a really nice pair of shoes. Running feels almost like, oh, I'm quite good at this. Like,
you almost look forward to, don't you? Like say like loosely, but you almost like you see a sparkling pair of shoes there. You're like,
give them a little spin,
getting those bad boys on.
Yeah, and I always say like try and be social with it as well. Like going back to what we were saying with some of the stuff with running, because like being on your own can be difficult. There's like running is a lot of it is in your head. Like there's barriers you have to do, lots of challenges. There's your body's telling you to stop sometimes when it's really hard, and it's all the mindset is so important. So like when you're able to run with someone else, you got a really nice distraction, but you get that run in, and it almost helps with the process. Like if you're doing multiple runs a week and you get like a couple of them in with someone else, that week it just feels naturally easier because you've shared it with someone else, and it's not been full on you battling yourself for the whole week kind of thing. And there's a really lovely community running as well. Like I don't know if you saw the weekend much about how much support there was at the London Marathon. It's insane how like something like that, just random strangers are getting like shouted at, like, go on, you can do this in the last, and then like, you know, it's just I don't think it's one of those. There was a study, wasn't there, with I think it was like concerts and like events like marathons, like how there's all the endorphins that flick off when it's a group urging something to happen, or all loving the same thing, and you're not even talking to each other, but you're all there cheering something on. It's just like, I don't know, there's not much like it, I don't think.
No. Yeah, funny enough, I was reading something quite similar actually about that. It was about group training. So it was more talking about like CrossFit and why that and this Hydrox and all this stuff, why that's quite popular.
Yeah.
And even personal training, where if you this was more about if you know that someone's watching and they may or may not be cheering you on, but if they're watching you and they're also cheering you on, they're going, oh, you know, two more reps, you know, like you've only got 1 mile left.
Okay.
You're like, fucking hell, yeah, all right, yeah. I can only imagine what the atmosphere was like. And especially, and I imagine that helped a lot with going over that barrier, even psychologically, because if most people are only running up until that maybe 22 mile mark, give or take, so they're not actually, they might have done it previously, but for that block of training, they're only getting to like 75% of the total distance. Once you cross that, it's like,
you're going quicker.
Yeah,
as well.
And you've upped your pace a little bit. This is unknown territory. Oh, Christ almighty. And then you've got like these people going, only took 4 more miles.
Yeah.
Shitting. Yeah, all right, yeah. Yeah, that's,
put it that way,
yeah.
No, honestly, yeah, it's amazing. And like you said, like, even you were saying, some people after 22 miles, it's probably about 90% of the people running a marathon after 22 miles. They're running most people are trying to beat their PBs, aren't they? So it's always going to be the fastest they've ever been at that speed. I say most, maybe half people. Some people are doing it just for fun or charity, or they're dressed in something. But yeah, you are at a point where this is the hardest it's ever been. So to have someone shout your name, because a lot of the time they encourage you to print your name on your top. So people are saying your name, and there's something about that. Like people going, go on, Danny, you can do this. And I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't know who I am. And there was one guy, I was proper going for it in the last couple of miles, and this guy was like, "Go on, Danny, you're running like a gazelle." And I don't know why that probably carried me for a good mile. Just him saying that.
It's a big thing, isn't it? It's amazing when you think about it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything that you do that one is, and that's why CrossFit and this Hydrox and all this stuff it's become really popular, because there's just that you got that community element to it. And I imagine with running, like you said, there is a big difference when you've got other people, even if they're not with you running. If you've got other people doing something similar, training for a marathon or just are runners, it is hard. It's fucking hard to self-motivate, especially if you're doing stuff, even if you do stuff that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I enjoy going to the gym. I've got about a 10-second commute. And like there's some days where I'm just like, I don't want to go in there.
Yeah.
I'm like away from training clients. I'm like, oh, no, not today. But if you've got other people after work or whatever who go, oh, God, I just don't fancy it tonight. Right, Sally, right, got meeting at 7, ready? Oh, shit, yeah, all right, okay, yeah. Straight away, you're like, right, okay, now I'm going to show up. I've got people around me, similar position, motivation's up and down, knackered, whatever else.
My motivation when knowing what a marathon feels like, it's hard. Training for the marathon, knowing what a marathon is like when you've already done one, that motivates you more as well, because you're really excited about the actual marathon day, which sounds mad out of context. But experiencing the marathon like I have, I'm like, oh, I want to do it again. I want to do it next year. And when I'm training for it, and if I want to beat my PB or whatever, there's just so many layers of motivation that get me out the door. But I think like you said, it's hard to think about doing something, but you just get to the start line of whatever you're doing. You've done the hardest bit, haven't you? So when you're doing it, you're doing it.
Cliche, but it's like you don't ever regret doing something, do you?
Nah.
Once you've done the workout, once you've done the exercise, even if you don't like running, but you go for the run, let's say you break your leg or get run over, you're probably going to go, do you know what? I feel better for that. I feel better for that. You might not have to do it long term, but it's getting something done. So, what's next? Any sort of Goggins type 5-day endurance stuff, or are you just going to keep to the marathon distance and like that's going to be just run different marathons? Do you want to do ones away from like the road? Do you want to do any like cross country marathons, or because I was going to touch upon that a little bit, but I guess because you were doing road, it's road work, isn't it? So is there anything you want to do? Is there any other marathons that like do road and cross country and running on sand and like fucking all sorts of shit?
It's going in the weeds, like you were saying earlier. The more you do it, you're like, what can I do now? Like you've hit the marathon. It's like the what do they call it? The arrival fallacy. When you've hit your target, what do you do now?
Yeah.
Well, what's longer than a marathon? So let's do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's probably not a good thing to be obsessed about, but like I'm wary of my age. Like I'm early 30s, and I probably can't be as good as I am now, or even in the next 5 years. So I want to get out the next 5 years. I just want to, I don't know, like just see what I could do, like what my body can do. So like the marathon was, I guess, the start of that. I want to do a triathlon.
I was going to say triathlon, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, just like a self-challenge kind of thing. But I only learned how to swim last year. So last year's New Year's resolution was to learn how to swim.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. I think we had this conversation, didn't we? Yeah. That was like just before I went traveling. Yeah, I was bad. I'm still fucking terrible, but I can just about float-ish.
Yeah, because it does feel like, oh man, I'm 30. I should know how to survive if I fell out of a boat.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I was using it as like a cross-training thing, and also just like that mindset of like, why aren't you swimming? You're 30. Come on, mate. And I think I was on holiday in Portugal at one point, and there's like you get those out the floaty bits, like obstacle course, like half a mile out in the sea, and all my friends are like, oh, let's go and do that. That looks like a laugh. I'm like, I can't. I literally can't. If I fell off, that's me done. Yeah. So I had to sit on the beach and contemplate my decision making for the rest of my life. Yeah. Whilst they were giggling away on the bouncy thing.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, me and Fiona went to, where was it? I think we were in Greece. And she went off for like a little dip and stuff, and we went on this like tour thing. I was just sitting on this boat. Oh, fucking hell! Like it's just watching her. It's lovely in here. Yeah. Oh God, it's so blue. It's like fucking hell. You need to really sort this out, man. Like fuck me. So yeah, mercifully, I haven't done any since I got back. To be honest, like it's bad, but I think it's one of those things where I would like to get into it again, but at least I know now that if someone pushed me off a boat, I should be all right. I'm probably not going to do what you're doing, like the whole like triathlon and stuff. I probably won't, maybe, who knows, but I'm happy with that. I'd like to get better. So probably in the future, I'll probably start, I might do some more lessons or something and try and get a bit better in terms of technique and all the rest of it. Because that's a big thing as well. You learn how to swim, but like doing like a front crawl and doing like my technique's fucking dog shit. So that's the next step. So I can actually swim properly rather than, throw him in the ocean. He can just about float. He's all right.
For about 10 minutes. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah.
I know I don't enjoy it. So I know like every time I do it, I'm like, right. Rather than when I did traveling, we like did snorkeling. It was like, this is. I wasn't thinking, oh god, I'm swimming. It was like, oh look, there's some fish down there. This is nice that I get the options to do this now. So I think running wise, well, that's a good amount, isn't it? Anything else you feel like is pressing? I was going to talk about, you briefly touched upon it, but I don't think we need to get into like gait analysis that is fucking.
I don't think even like, to be honest, I've never done a gait analysis.
Right. Okay.
I've seen the YouTube shorts of like, here's how your form should be, here's how where your head should be, and all that stuff. And I'm fairly conscious about the foot striking. That's a thing.
Oh yeah, it's like the heel striking, the toe. Yeah.
And like even it's I think you can overthink some of that. I don't think it's for most people. It's like one of the things you sort of when you got into running, you're like, how can I add a 1%? Or maybe lift your head up a bit. But it's not. I don't think it's important when you're starting. I don't think. No. I think I'm assuming like couch to 5K. I think most people just get on with it, rather than like, no, don't get me your gait analysis. I book that in. Make sure your knees at a 34 degree angle. I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to touch upon is like how running can be couch to 5K, or even just run a mile down the road. Like anyone can do that. And then you've got I think out of any sport or any activity, that the gap between that and like, I'm sure you've heard of like the hardest geezer who ran across Africa.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like how inspiring that point is. But it's exactly the same thing. You're doing exactly what he's doing, but he's obviously done it to this thing. Like how there is like a massive connection between the two, but it's just so big. Like there's not many sports where it's like that, I don't think.
Yeah. No, it can be. Like getting started with everything is always the hardest thing, isn't it? And then trying to stick to it. But yeah, I guess that probably goes full circle, doesn't it? Back to where we started. It's running is always one of those things where pretty much within reason, everyone can try and start implementing to a degree, depending on where you are, depending on like health and everything else. And like if you're overweight, you have to adjust it accordingly. But for the vast majority, it's reasonably accessible. You can get started with doing something, even if it's 95% walking and having that 5-minute little run at the end or whatever, and then you just build up fitness, lose weight, I
think there's an obsession, isn't there, with not stopping? Like, I did 2 miles and didn't stop, and it's like, but have you injured yourself by overdoing it as well? Like, are you knackered so much that you're not going to be able to run for 2 days? Like, if you've done a 2 mile and you're just starting running, and after a half a mile you need a 30-second walk and you run again and you do that. That's probably a better choice in terms of getting into running than knacking yourself out after 2 miles thinking, bloody hell, I'm not going to be able to do that again. I think from a mental point of view, it's just like, it does put you off, I think, some people, or it's not good for your body to always push it to the max, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
So don't feel bad about walking. Like,
Yeah, because it's almost like a badge of honor, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are. It seems like to get started, you're like, I ran and I didn't stop for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel? Oh, I'm fucked.
Yeah, I can't run for 4 weeks.
Didn't stop. And like, are you going to do it tomorrow? Well, I'll see how I feel. How do you feel? Oh, miserable. I am banged up. Oh, okay, so when are you due your next one? Oh, like, I'll give it a few days and then I'll try and get back into it. How's the running going? I haven't got a chance yet. I'll get out though. I will get out and I'll do another 20-minute stint and then I won't do it for another month. Yeah, that's a good point.